How Ange Postecoglou's 2-3-5 is already transforming Spurs. The Australian took charge over the summer, but his tactics already are an absolute joy to watch. From the basic setup, Spurs line up in a 4-3-3, but in possession, both fullbacks move into central midfield to join Bissouma, and both number 10s move into an advanced 3-8 position. This allows Spurs to create wide diamonds out wide, combination play, and play through the opposition shape. Spurs are one of the most aesthetically pleasing teams in the Premier League this season, and I'd quite say this is probably my favourite setup for any side in European football, is having both of those fullbacks invert, both of the 3-8s moving into number 10, width in the final third, and a false 9 dropping off the line. Spurs have done this through the ability of some of their players. The likes of Bissouma getting a first team role, Sarr's massively impressed, the youngster signed in the last transfer window, and Udogie joining from Udinese last summer, of course spent a loan spell there, but could be the perfect inverted wing back for Tottenham Hotspur. One of the big things with Spurs is because of the amount of passing angles that they've got, they simply carve through the opponent with these central diamonds, but also there's wide diamonds in a sense of the forward, joining Maddison, Udogie and Heung-min Son out wide. This ability to have multiple passing options at all times means Spurs can cut through the opposition with their vertical tiki-taka style. Of course, it all starts from their goalkeeper. Vicario was signed from Serie A over the summer. He started in a little bit of unconfident form in his first game against Brentford, but has really grown into the role of playing out from the back. But also his goalkeeping has been absolutely spot on this season. He's saved 93.3% of the shots he's faced in the Premier League, conceding only 1 goal from open play, the best record of any goalkeeper. But him starting from the back, drawing the opposition's press on, feeding the likes of Van de Ven and Romero to then play to the fullbacks or play inside to Bissouma, to then utilise that 3-8, then the number 10, work the ball out wide, and then the opposite winger getting in between the sticks and attacking the penalty area. Spurs have played some breathtaking football this season. So let's take a look at a move against Manchester United in the opening 22 seconds of the game. We can clearly see a lot of the fundamentals that Tottenham are going to play with this season. So starting off from the goalkeeper, Vicario will play short. He will utilise those short passes into the feet of the centre-backs, but as well, he's not afraid to receive that ball back as pressure comes. We can see Vicario here playing the ball to Van de Ven to give the attack a little bit of width from that central position, drawing in the pressure of Bruno Fernandes. One of the key concepts of the Premier League in recent years has been drawing the opponent's press on. We've seen that with De Zerbi's Brighton, and now we're very much seeing it with Ange Postecoglou's Spurs. So as the press is kind of drawn over, Bruno Fernandes into that position, they're utilising the goalkeeper from a ball-playing perspective. What I like about Spurs is they utilise that, but they also draw the opponents onto them. We can see Bissouma dropping into a pocket of space between the two Manchester United forwards, Alejandro Garnacho and Bruno Fernandes, to receive defeat. What I like about this is that he understands and he has the awareness, if there's pressure on his back, he's simply going to play one touch out to the centre-half in free space. This allows Spurs to pull the opposition's pressing structure to one side of the pitch and then utilise the space on the other. Spurs have simply drawn Manchester United left, they're then going to utilise right to progress the play. The big thing with Tottenham Hotspur this season is going to be about the positioning of those fullbacks. We could see Pedro Porro inside, just outside the D, and Udogie just in a bit more of an advanced area. But this narrowness really opens up the progressive passes into the feet of the wingers. We're going to see Kulusevski and Son or Solomon receive the ball in these areas. Narrowing up that midfield line allows for easy progression out wide. But in this instant, it's actually Pape Sarr dropping to that wing position. And that is the fluidity of Tottenham. This very much could be Kulusevski, but it is Sarr into his feet, allowing him to simply turn. You know, from this situation, Manchester United's pressing is poor. Luke Shaw is far too off his man, which allows Sarr to turn and then play inside. And that's the key thing, that diamond shape that we mentioned before. We can see Romero at the base of it, Bissouma just inside, obviously Sarr providing that width, and then Pedro Porro at the tip of that diamond. That's something that we kind of discussed out of the back, and we're seeing it in this move. That in this move, obviously Kulusevski's holding a high position, Porro's inside, Bissouma's dropped, and Sarr's providing that width. But creating these wide diamonds is so easy for ball progression. It's very difficult to pick that up, especially once you've drawn the opposition to the opposite side in their pressure. So Spurs playing through very, very simple. Pedro Porro is in acres of space. good ability to receive the ball, instantly plays wide to Kulusevski, and Manchester United got a real problem. The wingers holding the width, direct dribbler in Kulusevski. It's going to take Martinez down the line and then put the ball to the back stick. As you can see, Spurs have got a 3v2 in the penalty area, and that all comes from that build-up, utilising the diamond from deep, getting the ball wide, allowing the winger to have a 1v1 situation. He's going to pull wide, cross the ball with his right foot, and Son is going to blaze the shot over. But the build-up is absolutely brilliant. It's a real theme of Postecoglou's Tottenham Hotspur, utilising rotation between players, as we see here with Pedro Porro inverting and taking a high position, Sarr rotating out wide to receive the ball, a really good way to clear it. Pedro Porro is going to narrow the opposition's midfield, Sarr's going to use that space. It's brilliant football out of the back. So let's move into specific players and specific roles within the team. Obviously, the first thing we want to talk about, which I think is one of the most interesting aspects, is both fullbacks inverting into those central positions. It basically creates this massive overload in midfield where you've got 5 bodies in a central area and you're usually going to outnumber most shapes and systems. A counter to this potentially could be a diamond in midfield with 2 hard-working strikers that are going to work and press Bissouma. Obviously, Bissouma's been really good at wriggling out of pressure. He's completed more dribbles than any other Spurs player so far in the Premier League at a completion rate of 70%, which is great numbers. So if you want to do that, you could still wriggle out. But in terms of those fullbacks, we do see them operate in the final third. At times, Kulusevski will narrow, opening up the space for Pedro Porro to operate as a nominal winger. Other times, we see Kulusevski holding the width, Maddison dropping deep to get on the ball, and Udogie operating in that inside left channel. Udogie is a very good attacker. He's already been directly involved in 16 goals in league football, which is a great record for a player that is just 20 years old, but also for players under 23 in Serie A this season. He had the 5th most touches in the opposition's penalty area, which is great for a fullback in terms of the statistics. So we will see Udogie attack that inside channel at times and look to create opportunities. He had a really good link up with Heung-min Son in the game against Bournemouth, utilising a little bit of a 1-2 with the South Korean international and then getting himself into the penalty area, cutting the ball to the back post for Kulusevski to finish. This is kind of a classic Postecoglou goal, inverted fullback underlap, link up play with a false 9, and then a winger attacking the sticks, as we call it, in the play to get on the end of crosses. So let's go and take a look at that move, because I think it's a really good way to understand the inverted play of Spurs' fullbacks. So let's take a look at Spurs' second goal of the game against Bournemouth, and you can have a look at the rotation and the fluidity of Spurs' build-up, which is absolutely fantastic. In this situation, Spurs are building with a back 3. In fact, Højbjerg's come on and he's dropping into that right defensive position. Bissouma's sitting in front of the centre halves in a defensive midfield position. Mickey van de Ven is on the ball and Romero's taking that cover position. But we can see how Spurs have rotated with, Pedro Porro holding the width. James Maddison's going to drop and look to get on the ball. And Udogie is in an advanced area. Obviously, Perisic has come on as a nominal left winger. Heung-min Son's moved inside. But that ball into feet, that we spoke about before, that simple progression, we see it from all the best teams. The Centurions under Guardiola. We see it from Erik ten Hag's Ajax. That ability to play that pass from centre-back to progress the play to one of the wingers. But I want you to take a look at this rotation and Udogie combining in the final third, because I think it's a great bit of Spurs play. So ball's played out to a winger, which consequently draws that fullback out, which opens up the space for Udogie to underlap. A key thing of Spurs' play under Postecoglou, utilising width and then attacking that channel in behind. It's a classic way of getting behind the opposition, and we can see, that Bournemouth centre-halves are too, focused on dealing with Heung-min Son, which means Udogie can simply run in behind. Great ball outside of the boot by Perisic. Udogie's in behind, and you've got a real problem. Not only has he got that technical ability, he can carry, he can dribble, and he can utilise, passing movements. We can see now James Maddison's more in a support role here. This is typically a position that an inverted fullback would take up, but we mentioned before that rotation. And what that offers off is a simple pass to James Maddison. What I love about Udogie is he doesn't take that, and he looks for the feet of Heung-min Son. Lovely little outside of the boot pass. Brilliant 1-2 with Son freeing him inside the penalty area. Then the low cross. Kulusevski attacking the box in between the sticks, in between both posts to finish off the move with a really good finish. But this interplay is absolutely fantastic, and the rotation of Spurs is really good. What we saw there was Pedro Porro holding a wide position, a midfielder dropping into the defensive line to make a back 3, Maddison offering a support role, Udogie not only underlapping, from that pass in behind the defence, but then linking with Heung-min Son, little 1-2, and Kulusevski attacking the penalty area. Fantastic football from Spurs, utilising those inverted fullbacks. Obviously, we've spoke a lot about Udogie, but Pedro Porro is a technical and tactically proficient player after coming through the Manchester City Academy. Expect him to utilise his wing play in the final third, but also the underlaps on Kulusevski, as well as Udogie on the other side. Now onto the midfield composition for Spurs. They've got a holding midfielder, a number 6, and very much 2 3/8s that are going to utilise not only underlaps, but they're going to rotate positions as we previously saw. They'll overlap at times. There's a lot of fluidity in the Spurs midfield. But I think Bissouma deserves a lot of credit this season. He has been absolutely fantastic, and I think he's going to be team of the season at the end of the year. What he's been brilliant at is not only, as we mentioned before, escaping pressure, having that little bit of ability to dribble out of pressure, but also utilising his dribbling in the final third. But he's completed more passes into the final third than any of the Spurs player. He's really key in terms of the ball progression, either coming into him, linking inside or linking outside. But as well, he is the one winning the ball back for Tottenham Hotspur. He's won the ball back through tackles and interceptions 20 times so far in the Premier League, twice as many as any other Tottenham Hotspur player. This allows the freedom of the 2 8s to move into those 3/8 half space positions, and James Maddison has been an absolute breath of fresh air in that area. Creative, dangerous on the ball. He's the top chance creator for Spurs. He's also top for progressive passes. Again, we mentioned the rotation before, but he's top of that statistic. And also, he's got 22 goal involvements since the start of last season. Only Odegaard and Kevin De Bruyne have got more as midfielders. He is in the form of his life, and he's playing great football at Spurs. You know, his ability to get on the ball in the final third and really dictate the offense for Spurs has allowed them to have real control. We know the setup behind them is going to allow them to be dominant with the 2 fullbacks inside in these inverted positions, but he is really cooking in the final third. The link with Heung-min Son, with Richarlison, with Sarr, and that midfield link-up altogether is fantastic. And let's take a look at the first goal versus Bournemouth, because it was one hell of an example of midfield rotation and link play and then movement on the blind side. So we pick up the play on 16 minutes. We can see Spurs' build-up is looking good. The shape that they consistently play with, this 2-3-5, is on show. It's comprising, of course, the 2 centre-backs of the base. You've got Udogie inverting, Bissouma and Sarr are making that midfield line, and of course in the final third Kulusevski is being flanked by Pedro Porro in that area. This is a great shape. This really overloads certain parts of the pitch, as we mentioned before, especially that central area. Simple wide progression from Spurs, a key theme under Postecoglou, out to Pedro Porro operating in the wide area with Kulusevski inside. What I like about this is the roaming of Bissouma. He looks to get on the ball all over the pitch. You know, he's a player that's a great technician, got a really good first touch to escape pressure, and we see that here. You know, Pedro Porro is going to receive the progression, then drop it back into midfield, breaking that first line and getting into the final third. The touch from Bissouma here is absolutely world class. He's reading that there's pressure on his back. He's simply going to roll the ball to his left-hand side and slip past the pressure. This allows him to play heads-up football. We see the kind of awareness of Pedro Porro rotating back inside, taking up a more holding midfield position, being very tactically responsible. Kulusevski's now pulled into the wide area to open up the defensive line for Bournemouth. Going to see some interplay from Sarr first up, you know, dropping off his line. Very intelligent. Sarr has really impressed me with his game intelligence already. You can see how he moves on Billing's blind side, from an area where Billing could intercept the ball to where he doesn't know where Sarr is. Receiving into feet, really good turn, and then that movement on the blind side of not only Bournemouth's midfield, then running off their defence and getting slid through with Sarr to finish a really, really nice goal that Tottenham scored. And that ability to utilise the simple progression inside, work it inside, great first touch from Bissouma, that nice little movement from Sarr on the blind side of Billing, then Maddison utilising that run, beating the midfield, beating the defence and finishing home. It's a really, really good goal. Ange ball at its best. But not only has James Maddison impressed getting into the penalty area, again, the classic kind of false nine play that we see, you know, from a Postecoglou side, but Sarr is also getting into the final third really well. In fact, he ranks in the top 1% in Europe of midfielders for goals and assists, but also tackles won. So not only is he getting into the penalty area, but he's a very, very good counter-presser. We're not going to focus too much on Spurs' defensive shape. They defend in a 4-4-2, but they do counter-press. Heung-min Son said in a recent interview that it suits his style, and I think it suits Spurs as well. And Sarr is a really good ball winner. We mentioned Bissouma's ability to kind of anchor that midfield line. Sarr is that aggressive player in the final third, but also a box threat, as we mentioned before. Let's take a look at a really good chance that Tottenham had. That was more of a vertical tiki-taka move, really out of the back with speed, with pace, you know, utilising a 9 dropping off and then the midfielders moving ahead and combining with the 2 wingers ahead of him. Really, really good football. Again, let's dive into that chance. So taking this move from back to front, starting at the back as Tottenham recover the ball with Mickey van de Ven. Vicario, again, we mentioned before, really good ball-playing goalkeeper, comfortable in possession. This reverse pass is absolutely great. Completely does Solanke with the pressure, allowing Van de Ven to receive the ball in the box with space ahead of him to move forward. The big thing with this is you're seeing that Bournemouth are already getting pulled to Spurs' box, which is going to mean if they can play through this pressure, the transition is going to be on. Simple ball out wide to Udogie. He's going to utilise his ability to drive inside the pitch, play into James Maddison. We're already taken out 4 Bournemouth players on the pitch right now. Maddison into feet, simple roll on the pressure on his back. Richarlison's going to drop off the line. Maddison's going to break ahead. What I like about this, we can already see that kind of shape that we had on the tactics screen where Maddison and Sarr are actually ahead of Richarlison, the false 9, which I love. Ball simply progressed out wide to Heung-min Son, driving at the penalty area. Again, great use of width, and you can see Sarr's engine, his ability to cover ground quickly from right central midfield. As we mentioned previously, that the opposite winger will get into the penalty area, but Sarr's ability to get into the box, you can see that Kulusevski's taking the attention of the Spurs defender right now, which is going to open up a little area of space for Sarr to receive in the box, and he should do a lot better with his finish. He should open himself up, finish on his right foot. He is left-footed, so he naturally flicks it back onto his left foot. The space kind of gets shut down, but if you think that he opens himself up, finishes into that bottom corner, it's a brilliant, quick, vertical tiki-taka transitional goal that Spurs could have scored against Bournemouth. Great play out of the back, good utilisation of diagonal passes to get into the final third, good 1v1 dribbling, heads-up play from Heung-min Son, and Sarr should do a little bit better in the penalty area, but you can't blame him. He's still a young player. And finally, let's wrap things up talking about those wide players. Very, very important in Postecoglou's setup. We've just seen Heung-min Son dribbling, but Dejan Kulusevski as well is a fantastic ball carrier. Before Spurs, getting these guys the ball as much as possible will allow them to create chances. When you're looking at progressive carries for Spurs, Heung-min Son and Kulusevski are number 1 and number 2. Kulusevski is a really exciting talent on the ball, and to see him get possession in the final third from a consistent perspective in space, with space to carry into, is a real reason why Postecoglou's tactics are going to work. The 2 wingers are wide, but they're also goal-scoring threats. But let's take a look at Kulusevski's ability to create a goal against Manchester United. So pick up the play with the tactical cam. Spurs dominating the possession against Manchester United. We can already see that there is rotation. Sarr is going to receive the ball with Pedro Porro just to the right of him. I think the big thing with the Spurs shape is it gives wingers space to carry the ball. Pedro Porro is going to go instantly wide and play the ball ahead of Kulusevski, allowing him to take a positive first touch and instantly attack. But the amount of space that Manchester United give Kulusevski is criminal. They allow him to carry into the penalty area completely unchecked. He gets his head up, plays a cross into the box that not only deflects off Luke Shaw, hits Martinez and goes into the back post. But if we take a look at what Spurs will do from a consistent perspective, it is the opposite winger attacking in between the sticks. A key thing that we talk about, a key part of Ange Postecoglou's philosophy is one winger creating for the other winger to score a goal. We can see in this instance that low cross into the box isn't quite on. It deflects and breaks to Pape Sarr, who finishes off the move. Overall, this Spurs team is super exciting. I'd recommend watching them as much as you can this season. One of my favourite teams to watch in the Premier League. I think from a development perspective, I think this setup will be kind of where they build from. I think the only change maybe is Solomon coming into the team, Heung-min Son moving into a false 9 position, and Son Solomon moving wide. I absolutely love Heung-min Son in this area. He actually moved to that position in a few of the games. He completed the most passes in the final third against Bournemouth. And that ability just to link the play, just to play those smart passes, just to utilise those 1-2s as we saw with Udogie is going to be how Spurs take their game to the next level. Harry Kane has not been replaced, but he has been replaced by a few players upping their game. Heung-min Son, James Maddison, Sarr, Kulusevski and Solomon all getting in the goals will allow Spurs to really compete this season in the Premier League. Ange Ball is back and it's exciting. Thanks for watching, guys. If you are new around here and you enjoyed the analysis, make sure you subscribe. I've been Statman Dave. See you soon. Goodbye.